Texas Chainsaw Massacre is directed by David Blue Garcia and stars Sarah Yarkin, Elsie Fisher, Mo Dunford, Alwyn Fury, Jacob Latimore, and Jessica Lane, just to name a few. And after nearly 50 years of hiding, Leatherface returns to terrorize a group of young entrepreneurs who accidentally disrupts his carefully shielded world in a remote Texas town. What's up, guys? So we're back at it again, or I'm back at it again. And this time we're taking on the latest in horror movie reboots, reimagining, requels, whatever they want to call it, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. And I'll start by saying they really need to come up with a different way to name these Texas Massacre movies, because, I mean, so many of them seem to have the exact same name, and then they're just kind of throwing the next generation, whatever. I mean, it gets confusing. But let's put that aside for a while and take a look at this. I guess it's a sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first film all the way back in 1972. I hope I got that right. This one supposedly taking 50 years after that movie. And we have, like Halloween 2018, we have another David behind the in the director's chair. This time David Garcia instead of David Gordon Green. I mean, coincidence, yes. But this movie, why I bring that up is this movie is definitely heavily inspired by Halloween 2018. The way the beats go, the way the story goes, you can tell they modeled it on that movie, hoping for that same level of success. It works, kind of works, but there's a huge misstep here, and I'll get into that in my negatives. But let me talk about what I liked here, and I'll start by saying this movie looks really good. This movie has visually, I thought that it has a great look about it. The sound as well, the score as well. Now, it doesn't quite 100% fit into that Texas Chainsaw Massacre world, which is very grimy, gritty, dirty kind of world. The films that really succeed at paying homage or being, feeling cohesive to the first movie directed and created by Tobe Hooper, is those movies that stick with that aesthetic. Here we get it a little bit. It still feels a bit too polished, but we do get those dilapidated buildings. We do get that sense of desolation and decrepidation, that sort of thing going on here. I thought they did a good job with the score. I thought the sound design was pretty good. It came across very intense when it had to. It wasn't too overwhelming. It was quiet when it needed to be. So I felt like the cinematography and the sound design here was pretty great. I think they did good work here. The story itself, I don't really have much of an issue with that. Like I said, it's modeled on the beats of Halloween 2018. So what we have is a killer who has disappeared for some time. Now, in the case, of course, of Michael Myers, he was locked away in an institution. Here what we have is Leatherface. They mess with the origin story a bit here, guys, but Leatherface basically was raised in an orphanage, and he somehow went back there after the events of part one. Like I said, it doesn't quite fit, but whatever. And he is secretly, I guess, staying with this woman named Ginny, played by Alice Krige, and she has been taking care of him. She has been keeping him at peace, keeping him quiet, so to speak, I have to say that the actor who plays this version of Leatherface, Mark, I think it's Burmum or something like that. Sorry if I get the name wrong. He definitely delivered on that vein. He is so massive, and the way he moves, he's also really fast. So there's this extra added layer. I mean, thing with Leatherface for me is I always found him imposing, but it was more about the mask and the giant chainsaw for me. Yeah, he's a guy who can move, but he always seemed a bit silly. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly from getting that across, but he was, as compared to like, I don't know, early Freddy Krueger and Kane Hodder's Jason, he always felt a bit silly to me, a bit like he was bumbling through the woods sort of thing. This guy is terrifying. This man is not somebody I would want to come across at any point in my life. He nailed that for me. He nailed that instant sense of you are not getting out of this situation alive for me with this character, with the way he moved, you know. And any actor that can do that with just their body, because like Jason, this is a character that doesn't speak, so you know you have to be able to emote with your body, your physicality. And I thought he nailed it. He absolutely came across like a terror. So huge props on that one. And we have some characters coming here, some young influencers, if you want to call them that, entrepreneurs who have decided they've gotten some investors to buy up the dead town of Harlow so that they could gentrify it and they could bring it back, you know. So as you can tell, the movie, these people are supposed to be our protagonist. But when I tell you that this movie does not like these people, I am not understating that. These characters are terrible. And they come into the town, of course, with that sense of entitlement. We've seen this in other horror movies before. And the people that you want to root for in this film are not the people that are going to make it to the end, right? So this takes me into my biggest negative with this movie, besides the fact that it does not add anything new to the entire world of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It really didn't do anything new. It didn't teach us anything about Leatherface that felt like it was worth learning. You know, it doesn't expand on this world in any way, shape, or form. And even though they also pick another page out of Halloween 2018's book by bringing back Sally, the one survivor from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They bring her back. She's now an older woman. It's very much Jamie Lee Curtis, aka Laurie Strode, in the 2018 movie, where she's been training and she's been waiting. In this case, she's actually the sheriff of the damn town. And all she's been doing is waiting and watching for Leatherface to return so she can seek revenge. And I have to say, now the original actress, of course, Marilyn, she passed away. But I think in 2014 she passed away, so they couldn't bring her back. The actress that replaces her, I'm sorry, it's a Swedish name, I think, and I'm spazzing on the name right now. I think it's her last name is Fury or something like that. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but anyways, she nails it. She is the best, one of the best things about this movie. And honestly, if she had been made the main focus, if she had been made the lead character, this could have been a hell of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. It could have been one of the best, right? Because let's look at all of the films. It's 9 of them in all. And to be quite frank, the sequels are not that good. They're nowhere near as good as the first film. This could have been that sequel if they had just made this Sally's story, if they had just focused on that. She was fantastic. But guys, she only has about maybe 10-15 minutes of screen time, if so much. Why would you do that? And then you have these kids, these characters who are super unlikable. I was just, from the beginning, with the exception of one character named Ruth, I wanted all of these people to die. There's a character here, I think her name is Nell or Lily or something, Lila or something like that. Anyway, her sister, there's Melody, and then there's this character, and she was in a school shooting. She's a victim of violence, and we're supposed to sympathize with this character. And when I tell you that I honestly couldn't care whether she lived or died, I'm not being mean. I'm just saying the character is so poorly written. The way they come across as these unlikable, think they're better than everybody type of characters that they just don't work. And the characters I do like there's this guy that when they roll up into town, he's the guy who's supposed to help them, I guess, keep get everything in order. I'm trying to remember his name, but he's your basic down home country guy, right? And of course, they try to make him out to be a redneck or a hick or whatever. The guy is super likable, and you saw, like I said, you could tell the director really don't like these influencer types. There's an entire scene built around how much he does not like, or the writers, I should say, as well. Oh, by the way, this movie was written by Fede Alvarez and his team. So that's the same person behind Don't Breathe and the Evil Dead reimagining, which I absolutely love. Yeah, it doesn't work because these characters are so terrible. You don't care if they live or die. And the ending of this movie is beyond ridiculous. It went from horror with some very decent kills. The first kill was fantastic. Nothing else lived up to it, but the first kill was fantastic. The gore, the blood, pretty good. Not a fan of CG, but they do mix some practical stuff in there. So overall, it works really well. But guys, I honestly, this movie had so much potential. And I can tell you the downfall for me was the focus should have been on Sally's journey. She's the one who went up against him 50 years ago. She's the one that should be dealing with him now. And the unlikability of the main characters. I cannot get behind a movie where I do not like the main characters. I do not give two shits whether they live or die. So what is the point of focusing on them? As soon as they start knocking off the characters that I liked, at that point I'm just sitting there waiting for Leatherface to just kill everybody because I don't care anymore. So good attempt, but this really went in the wrong direction. I don't know whose idea it was to pull focus from characters like Sally and the more heroic characters in this and focus on these asshats. The film went from really decent horror movie to this kind of schlocky, ridiculous comedic thing in the end, and it just doesn't work as a whole. So I'm giving Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 a 5 out of 10. It really doesn't warrant more than that. Do I think you should watch it? Yeah. I think it's fine. I think even if it wasn't even related to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if they had just make this something else, it's worth watching like that. It still wouldn't be a great movie, but it would be a decent slasher. But to try to fit it into that world, and you have such a great foundation, and then you just stare and veer off the road and crash into a tree. It just, no, I'm sorry. 5 out of 10. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button. It's always appreciated. If you're new here and you'd like to subscribe to my channel, you can click on my face when it pops up right about there. And you can check out past reviews all along that way. So until the next time, guys. Bye-bye.